Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions on a Saturday. Today is an in-depth profile. We're going to be speaking to industry unicorn, Michele Venton. Michele is also one of our lead hosts for Branded by Women, amongst other things. How are you doing today, Michele?
Very good. Thank you, Danny. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, fine. It's a beautiful day here. I've already been down the beach for my legal walk. So yeah, feeling good.
When you say legal, how legal is that?
It's good because it's my local. I live close to the beach. So I would usually go for a walk down the beach. So it's, yeah.
Excellent.
I call that legal.
Cool. Right. So let's get into it. I want to take it way back to your childhood. Give me your earliest memory of inspiration in terms of entrepreneurship. I know we're going back young, but is there anything there that led you that wanted to be an entrepreneur at an early age?
You know, it doesn't go back too far into my childhood. I don't remember anything from being, a toddler or a really young child, but I just remember watching my dad. My dad had a very, very humble beginning, no money, no education, in the fostering system for most of his childhood. So watching him come out of corporate life, which he did quite successfully, and then start his own business, and being involved, watching him with that business from the very moment it started right up until the point that they sold it. I think that for me is probably, where I can track that back to.
Okay, so obviously we're going to move to the peak of the story in a little while about selling and where you are with things. But are you saying back then, so he was in corporate, he started his own business and he exited his own business?
Yeah, so my father was in the hotel industry. I was really lucky to be born in Bermuda. So all my childhood was in, on this glorious island. I don't think I wore a full set of clothes till I was probably about 5 years old. And he worked in the hotel industry. But then when things started to change in that environment, he actually relocated to southern Spain with his new partner. And he didn't speak Spanish. He was Canadian. They had some modest savings, but he had to create a new life for them then, having, really the challenge was really high. And they literally just spent some time in the area, looking around them, trying to find out opportunities. They tried one or two things with moderate success and some failures. And, I say failures, they learned from them. And then eventually they started to grow a very successful business over there. And I used to go over as a teenager and spend my holidays over there and help them out with the business. I remember sitting with one of those stamps, and we call them facturas. They're like invoices, and just stamping all of the invoices, thousands of the things. That's how I, would earn some pocket money. Or, they were in a wholesale and distribution industry. So getting all the goods into the warehouse and repackaging them. I just loved all of that. It's what I call raw business. Yeah. Seeing the goods arrive on pallets and putting them into the warehouse and then getting them out again and going out with the delivery drivers. I just loved it.
So you were exposed quite young in that sense. So you saw real, like raw, what's the word for it? Like a service-based business. So you were obviously stamping invoices and stuff like that. But back then, if you can picture it, what do you think was the key component there? Like, I know that you enjoyed it, but what did you enjoy about it? Because stamping invoices, that doesn't sound fun, but you found it fun. So where was the connection there?
Probably at the time I didn't find it fun. It was just the only way I was going to earn enough pocket money to go out with my mates in the evening. But yeah, in retrospect, it was good. I think what I loved about it was knowing that it didn't have a finite end. It started small and it kept getting bigger and bigger. And every time I went over for the next holiday, it was bigger. They had more clients. The warehouse had doubled in floor space. So I think that what excited me about it was the journey of not knowing where it was going to end. And what you were, and knowing you were building something. It wasn't the same as going into work and, making sure you were the first car in the car park and the last car to leave, and knowing that, what money you were going to get in your pay packet at the end of the month. It just had more. And what you put in was exponential to what you put out. You could just grow it. And I think that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've got to say some quick hellos to people here. Joe Cumberbatch, you obviously, Joe, don't you? Love Michele Venton, such an inspiration. Yelchin says, hello, nice to see you again. Thank you. Juan says, hey, Danny, good to see you again. Thanks, mate. Saibi, good afternoon, guys. Hot off the back of yesterday's session. as I couldn't listen live. A must for those who haven't heard it. Thanks again, Danny, for the awesome work and commitment. Let's have a look who's in the feed here. Peter Luxembourg is here. Don's here as well. Mark Steer. Frank is joined the feed as well. Consta is here. Leran Hirschkorn, he'll be on tomorrow. How you doing, Leran? Megla, of course, is here. Cindy is here. Andrew Kramer. Abigail is saying a quick hello as well. So, okay, so next stage for you. So can we put a bit of a timeline on it? How old were you when you were stamping the invoices, etc.?
About 14.
Okay, so was there anything prior to that, or it all started when you was...
No, I mean, I used to love, in Bermuda as a child, my father was one of the top managers of the hotel, and I'd strut around probably in a very bratty way, knowing that my dad was quite high up. But I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being part of the business even then, and watching what was going on, or going in with my dad early on a morning shift or late on a night shift. And I just enjoyed the atmosphere of it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So who would you say is your inspiration at that age?
Gosh, at that age, it probably just was my dad, watching him go off to work in a suit and tie every morning. I just thought that was great. What did he do, and what was, it just looked so important, and kept a lovely roof over our head and an amazing lifestyle in Bermuda. So for me, it was my biggest inspiration, really.
So would you say...
It's a shame, because my mother probably wasn't my inspiration, but she was the one probably doing equally as hard work, keeping everything going at home. But at that age, you don't see that.
Yeah. So were you a daddy's girl back then, or was it your dad was always out working, and you see what he did, and you knew what he was trying to do, and build some?
Yeah, I don't think I was a daddy's girl. He worked a lot. I mean, like you said, he came from a very, very humble background. He was orphaned at a very young age and in the foster care system in Canada. He really had a terrible childhood.
Yeah.
So his whole focus for his whole life was that survival and that building up. So as a child, I mean, if you look back retrospectively, he probably was quite absent because he was so focused on work. Now, obviously, I see why. And at the time, it didn't, I didn't really notice it. But looking back, it was probably not like the dads of today who are hands-on and doing. I think the story goes, when my mother went into labour with myself or my brother, she was dropped off at the hospital doors, go in and call me when you're done kind of thing. It was like that in those days. So nothing like we have the father roles today. But yeah, that's just how it was. And actually, there's a lot.
Well, when you said back in those days, you never asked a woman her age. So we're not going to put a timeline against that at all.
The early 70s. Yeah. We survived the 70s with, no parental supervision.
Yeah. Okay. So we're at age 14. So when did you, back then, we're of a similar age. You left school 16, 17, didn't you? Went on to college, or what did you do? You went 14, you're working with a family business, etc.
Yeah, well, he was in Spain, so I wasn't really working. I was with my mum in England. And again, that's quite a focal point for, I suppose, where my inspiration came from. Because while my father was in Spain working very hard and building up this company, it was my mum who was left to bring up two children at a time when, interest rates were sky high. And I felt very, I suppose, looking back, when I try and trace back my why, which is so important, isn't it, when you become an entrepreneur or you're trying to achieve your goals, you need to cling on to that why, is watching my mum almost, I would say, trapped by her environment. You've got two children to support, you're a single mum, interest rates are high, you have to get, any job that will pay the bills. I remember my mum would go out to work, she'd walk 45 minutes home to feed the dog at lunchtime and then walk back to work. And then, it was a really, when I look back at it, I suppose that was my big why, was that I didn't ever want to feel trapped like that. I always wanted to have options. She was a great mum. She did everything she possibly could, but without a doubt, she was trapped. She have no personal goals, or, the opportunities just weren't there. And I think I really, really cling on to that, as we have so many opportunities. In this day and age where we are, huge amount of opportunities that weren't available then. And I think that was always a really big driving force for me was not to allow myself to get trapped, whether that was financially or environmentally. So my father was in Spain working, with the business, but that was fine. He didn't have children under his feet. He didn't have childcare responsibilities. He literally had, 15 hours a day to build that up. Whereas my mother, looking after the children with no income, low income and no money, she didn't have those opportunities. So it's very unfair of me to say my father was created, success and built something, because he had the opportunities to do it. My mother didn't. So it's very two different outlets there, and I'm very aware of both of them, and don't judge either of them for it.
Do you feel it's almost like what you do now, part of your drive, is you're compensating for what your mum missed out on? So you're carrying from both parties, the inspiration from your dad, and it's like, Mum, I'm doing this for you as well. We're on this journey together. Because we'll get to Mum later, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about Mum. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, not just as a mum, as dads as well, your childhood plays such a crucial point, even if you're not aware of it at the time. But yeah, it does certainly mold who you are. And what you achieve.
I'm just going to quickly be popular today, so let me just say some hello. So Tiff's back. She says, good morning. Owen's here, says, how you all doing? Sil says, can't watch now, but we'll replay when back. Michele Venton, I'm your #1 fan. Tiff says, she looks 22 to me. Love heart. Christine says, hello. Stuart says, hi there. Athena says, absolute goddess. Miss Michele Venton, love everything about this lady. Adam here, you are a star for sure. Debbie's joined us in the feed here as well. Jennifer's here. A few more joining. So we're going to get to the next step. So we've covered that period of 14, 15, 16. What was your first, I'm not called a real job, what was the first job external of the family business?
Oh, my best job. I worked in a wholesale warehouse with my brother. So a bit like Booker's, or I don't know what the American equivalent of that would be, where all of the small corner shops go and stock up all of their shelves. And I loved that job. It was such a raw business model. So you had all the small shops coming in, from your corner shop to your off license, to your restaurants, to your cafes, and they would come in and they would buy all of their stock that they needed for that week or however, and you chat to them. I was always on the till, so it was really fast. I could remember every single code. So 46321 was a packet of toilet rolls, and 29685 was Walker's crisps. So it was a bit stereotypical that the lads there, my brother included, had to lift all of the boxes from trolley to trolley, and the girls would all be on the tills typing in their numbers really fast. And I absolutely loved that job, because it was really varied, but I just loved that. I suppose I've always had a love for what I call raw business, goods in, goods out, customer service, all of that. I love it.
Yeah. So where did that take you next? Because you've done corporate. We won't jump too fast. So let's timeline it here. 2021. What were you doing there? Did you go and get educated in a certain area? Did you study? What was your thing?
I tried not to. I went to Spain for a year and refused to go to university.
Love that. Yeah.
I was going to go. And then my mother, without me knowing, got me onto a degree course at Nottingham University. And I had something like 2 weeks to get back. And I was refusing. I'm not going. And in the end, my father put me on one of his delivery trucks. I remember getting in this truck with some Scouser. He was a driver. And he was going back to the UK, and got me lift on this truck. And I spent about 3 days in this truck with this guy coming back to England, because I'd been summoned home to go to university. And that in itself was an amazing experience. The trucking life. I remember getting on the truckline ferry and sitting with all these truckers. I mean, today you would never do that to your child, put them on a truck with some guy. You would never do that. But in those days, it was fine. I'll hitch a ride on this truck. So I did. I remember coming back off Poole Ferry in south of England, and my mum sort of pulling me off and sending me off to university. So I was reluctantly sent off to university, but it turned out to be amazing.
Oh, right. So you did embrace it. Like, you sound to me like your own mind, right? So I had the impression that you would have gone in one day and dumped it, but you stayed because you liked it. So let me ask this. And you probably know my opinion of this. I don't need to go into it again. What is your take on the school and the school system? Is it a waste of time or not?
No, I don't think it is. I don't panic if my children aren't academic. If I've got one, my son is hugely academic. You know, he scares me. And my daughter's much more like me. She'll work hard. She's quite studious, but she's more interested in color coding all of her things on her desk and having lots of files. But it doesn't worry me one bit if they're not academic, because I've been exposed to this environment. If I hadn't been exposed to this environment, perhaps I wouldn't be so relaxed in my thinking, because it's drummed into you, isn't it?
When you say this environment, you're talking about working for yourself, entrepreneurial environment. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, you can learn in any way that suits you these days. You can be homeschooled, you can learn from having a mentor, you can buy a course. You do not have to go down the traditional university route. But what I would say is that if you do, it just gives you a safety net.
Structure.
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, if you do want to enter the corporate world, if that is your calling, you know, if you'd like to be an engineer or you'd like to be a teacher, you know, you do need that formal qualification. So I'm not anti it and I'm not for it. I think it's completely dependent on the person, on their learning style, on their characteristics. But also for me, university was more than just an education. And when I went to university, it was free. So I was more there for the social. I just happened to come away with a really good degree. But these days, because it's so expensive and you have to pay, I certainly would not push my children down that route unless it was for them.
So remind me again, what did you complete? Was it graphic design, did you say, at uni?
Oh, no, I'm the least creative person out there. No, business.
Oh, you've done business. Okay, so you passed with honours. How old was you there? I won't say what year.
I started at 21, so I took my year out in Spain, so it was about 25.
Okay. And then where was corporate life? Because you just don't strike me as someone, you're no nonsense. You're like me. You don't do politics, camps, all this kind of bullshit. No. And I can't imagine you tolerating the corporate world. So walk me through that.
Yeah, so I mean that's the biggest thing. When I left corporate, my biggest thing was I am never going to work for another knobhead again. You know, I just can't stand it, being told what to do every day by somebody you have no respect for. It was really hard. So anyway, so I went to university, and then I moved to London, as most, you know, all my friends were doing. And my now husband and I, my boyfriend at the time, I've been with him since I was about 21. We bought a flat in London and we lived the London life for about 12 years. And during that time, I had 3 main corporate roles, all in marketing and PR, all for the aviation industry, Air New Zealand. I worked for the London Trains Company. I also worked for Honda. I had a graduate program for Honda, which is where, you know, at the time, I thought my corporate life was a waste of time. I just didn't see the value in it. Now, having doing what I'm doing, it has come in leaps and bounds, you know, how much I value that, because I had exposure to customer service, I had exposure to sales, I had exposure to marketing, I had exposure to corporate life. So if I'm trying to model a small startup brand, I at least have that knowledge of how it works on a corporate scale. And of course, it's very different in the sort of niche markets, but it's really stood me in good stead to have that background. But at the time, I didn't value it at all.
Well, you come up the same as me back in them times. You were into clubbing and stuff as well, because I know Dan and I know his musical taste, and we've chatted about stuff before. So we're talking that's in the 90s period, late 90s, early 2000s, where we
There's something on today, some big dance reunion going on. He's inside doing DIY with it blasting. He's 20 on the dance floor.
Oh yeah, I know. I think I know what it is. It's 31 years of Centre Force. Right, which is run by Andy Swaller, because that was Andy Swaller was down the road from me. Him and Jimmy Jungle used to run the Centre Force station and stuff. This is late 90s. So I know the guys. Yeah, and it's today's Centre Force's 31st birthday, which is crazy when you think about it. Anyway, back to you. So done corporate life. Where do we go next? You said you've done 3 turns in corporate. What was the next stage?
We did corporate, and then we decided we'd had enough of London. I think 10, 12 years, you kind of burn out a bit, even though Dan is from London. And we decided to move back down to where I'm from, which is Bournemouth, in the south of the UK, where the beach is. And I thought, okay, if we're going to move down south, I wasn't getting the clients I wanted that I would get in London, where it was marketing and PR, so I was getting all the smaller clients, didn't really interest me. And I thought, you know, as most women do, I thought, well, hang on a minute. You know, kids were starting to come into our thoughts, and I wanted to have a job that was friendly with children. So I had an aha moment, because my husband's been a teacher, bless him, for 20 odd years. I had an aha moment that I would retrain to be a business studies teacher, because how hard could that be? And I get all the holidays.
Yeah, but you don't, because you work, it's red tape, and you're doing all lesson planning for 6 weeks. Yeah. I used to be a teacher as well, so I know. Yeah.
So I retrained as a teacher, passed all of that, and I lasted about 5 years because it was the hardest job I've ever done.
Yeah.
And never going to do that again. It just, and that was when, so I did that, and then and then I obviously got pregnant with our first child, and it was then that I thought, I can't go back to teaching or corporate, and that's where things started to change.
Okay, so this, now we come out of the day job, the regular paycheck at the end of the month. Talk to me about having young children and then building your first business from there.
Yeah, so again, I have one of those aha moments. You know, you're on maternity leave, and I thought, right, I'm off the treadmill. I've got 9 months of maternity leave. I'm off the treadmill. I have got to do something. I've got to use this time wisely to get something started so I do not have to go back after maternity leave. Because then, how hard can that be when you've got a newborn baby? It'll be fine, honestly. So I remember being on maternity leave and thinking really hard, what can I do? What can I do? And I decided that, you know, I couldn't start my own business from scratch because I was just about to have a baby. So I signed on the dotted line to open up a franchise. And there is a picture of me in the local press opening up my franchise with my son on my hip, who must have been about 4 or 5 months old, because I was the woman that thought, how hard can it be to open a business and have a baby at the same time? But by hook or crook, I'm not going back to work once my maternity leave is over. So this is my only opportunity of doing it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is when you make that decision, because it becomes final, because it's like, this has to work. There's no way back. And sometimes that's a good place to be, because that fear factor drives you along. Obviously, Dan was working as well, but it's still, you still need both incomes coming to support household and stuff. Yeah. So where do we go from here? So
I had the franchise business. I had my son. I put a really good manager in place. So although I was at the business every day, you know, I had somebody really reliable running it. Then I had my daughter, and by this time I'd had another franchise shop as well. So
can I ask, or is it private, what the franchise was?
No, it was in you know, about 4 or 5 years ago, all of these milkshake shops were popping up. So you had the milkshakes, and you put all the sorts of hideous toppings in them, all of the sweet confectionery. It was in those when they were just launched and they were booming.
Right.
You know, queues out the door for miles. So we had 2 of those shops. And I just
were they not seasonal? If they're, or they were right for the winter?
No, because the market is all the teenagers.
Okay.
So they will have it any time of the day. You know, after school, in holidays, you name it. In the winter, and in the winter we used to do the hot drinks as well. So no, it was it did really well actually while it was, you know, trending.
Yeah.
So then I had my daughter, and it was at a point when I had the 2 shops. I had my daughter and my son both at home with me. At this point, we had about 15 staff on payroll, and I just thought, you know what, I can't do this anymore. It was you cannot have your cake and eat it, and women cannot have it all. It was really hard, and I felt like I was not being a great mum. I felt like I wasn't being a great, you know, owner of the business. I felt like I wasn't being a great wife. I felt like I was letting everybody down.
You had an imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I felt like I was even letting my dog down. You know, he wasn't getting 2 walks a day. I was squeezing in 1. So we kind of had a debrief, and, you know, everything came out about how it was just too much. And luckily, I was approached to sell the shops, and I took the out and I sold the shops. And I didn't make much, but I certainly broke even, made a little bit more. But I learned such a lot from that experience. And
so we're going to get to the story later, which is the peak of the story, but would you have said that the selling those stores also helped you set up mentally for selling businesses in the future, because you've gone round on the
everything from setting up a company, you know, going through the legal paperwork, interviewing staff, looking at your key metrics, all of those fundamental foundations were there. So it didn't scare me so much to start something up on my own.
Makes sense. Going to say some more hellos and read out some of the messages. So Athena says, you set a great example of women, entrepreneur and mothers. Facebook user says, sorry, your name hasn't come up. Long time, Michelle. You're still, where are we? Sounding good, Michelle. Okay. Anna's got some hearts. Henrietta's back. Good morning, Danny and Michelle. Tiff's joined. Sherry's joined here as well. John, Ian Page, Herbie's with us. Giselle is here. Yal Kabili. How you doing, Yal? She's a brilliant lawyer that we've been having on the show on a regular basis. Florin from Down Under. He's back here. It's silly o'clock. Matt Phipps, as you know, Kata's partner. Annalise is here as well. Debbie's joined the call. Okay, so next step. We sold, or I say we, listen to me. You sold the business, okay? What was the next step from there?
So that was when we still needed an income. My kids were still young. They were, I think my son must have been at preschool and my daughter was at home. We live in an area where we're surrounded by international language schools. It's very popular. We're surrounded by them. And a lot of our friends were taking in international students, so you're becoming like a host family. And we did that for about 4 years. We were a host family. You know, our house was full of students. They usually stayed with us from anything from a month to 6 months from all around the world. And that was my income stream. So we made that decision that in order for me to still be with the children, to be a stay-at-home mum and not go back to corporate, because I knew that once I got back on that treadmill, I was never coming off it again. So, and I also knew that I just needed to get through the early years of my children, you know, not to rush through it, but once they were in school, then I'd have a bit more time to maybe start my journey again. But at that time, it was, you know, I was a mum first and foremost. So we had international students in, you know, we would be cooking for them, cleaning for them. But on the whole, they were all lovely. I'm still friends with many of them. You know, I get invited all around the world to go and see them. And my kids have great memories of having them in the house. So that was our money gap, really, to bring in that second income while allowing me to still be at home.
Yeah. Okay. So then we moved from there. You got things settled, germination of ideas. What was the next steps for you from there?
So I knew what the biggest takeaway from having the shops was that I didn't want to do retail again. The overheads are a killer. I don't have anyone makes money in retail by the time you've paid your, you know, your rent and your taxes and your wages. And I just don't know how anyone can make money in retail. So that was my biggest takeout. I did not want to do retail. However, I absolutely loved the idea of owning my own brand. Every time I would open up, I don't read magazines anymore, but if you'd ever open up one of these house magazines, home magazines, there are always these stories about these mums that have created a business and owned a brand. Actually, now in hindsight, you look back at them, they probably, you know, weren't really an established brand, but they made it sound so great. And I just always had this passion for owning a brand and building a brand that I was really proud of. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I had this idea that it was a particular type of dress that I wanted to design. And I'm not really into fashion, so I don't know where this came from, but I was convinced there was a market for it. I was convinced that there was an audience I could tap into, and this is what I was going to do. So the day my daughter went into primary school, I remember feeling like there was a ticking clock, that if I didn't find an income for myself, I was going to have to go back, sign a contract, and go back to corporate life. Very much felt like, you know, Dan had been so patient with me. He'd, you know, held down the job that he hated as well. He hated his job in the end, the teaching job. And he allowed me to sort of stay at home with the kids, and we had international students in his house as well. He didn't have to do that. He could have sent me out to work. And I very much felt like if I didn't make this work within that first year of my children being at school, we'd have no option. But
you know, there's two commonalities there. You set yourself up for both of those times. It's shit or bust. This is what we're going all in. And that's good. That's that mentality. Maybe it wouldn't have been like that, but you set the bar to be that way as well, which is a good thing.
With all my heart, I did not want to get back in that rat race. I just didn't. So I did. I said, okay, I had an inheritance. By this time, my father had passed away, and I had an inheritance. You know, we're not talking masses, but I had a nice little pot, and I allowed myself some of it to start my business because he was an entrepreneur, and I knew that it was something he'd be proud of. And I remember him saying to me, Michelle, once you work for yourself, you will never ever go back. To someone else. And that stays very firm in my mind. And so I used this money and I went about getting my dresses. I remember driving all around the place, getting the patterns cut, choosing the fabric. We used a factory up in the East End of London. I used to have to go up there all the time. And I loved that because it was coming back to that raw business. I'd sit there and I'd watch everything being made. And
Well, there's a lot of factories in East London, especially where the old Olympic Park was, you know. Yeah.
That's exactly where it was.
Yeah.
A bit rough in some areas, but you know.
I believe I was from there. Yeah, so I know. Yeah.
I know. Dan keeps phoning me. Are you all right? Are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm just walking through some area. I'm not really sure where I am, but you know, it was a bit dodgy. And I remember my first order of dresses arrived, and they're sitting there in boxes, and I'm like, oh my god, I created this. These are amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. They look beautiful. And then I had to sell them, and I had no e-commerce experience. I had no, you know, I didn't know what traffic was. I didn't know what conversions was. I had nothing. And I remember thinking, okay, well, how do I sell these? And we got featured, actually. We got featured on a very popular This Morning show. You'll know it in the UK. Got one, picked up our dresses and was featuring them on a show.
Really? Excellent.
Yeah, amazing. And but I still couldn't sell the dresses. We had no outlay. So I tried a few different things, and in the end, I put the dresses on Amazon. And that's where the Amazon story started, because I created this range of dresses that I loved. It was in line with my brand. I knew there was an audience for it. We got good press coverage. Couldn't sell the damn things, and I put them on Amazon.
And then, so we're okay. So is this the start of Amazon, or did we go off there, or is this the start of the big journey that we're getting to the peak of the story for? Okay. So you started with the dresses. We know that in that world there's a lot of returns, variations to deal with, etc. So how did that fare?
So I was selling on Amazon, and in those days, just opened up a seller central account. There was none of this ID verification. It was just, you know, it was just not the market. But I remember seeing our dresses on and thinking, why are we on page 100? Why are these dresses on page 1 and they're awful? You know, I knew there was something that I wasn't getting, and from that moment I was fascinated. I was like, I'm on Amazon. There are people that want to buy, but how do I get my products on page 1? And I knew instantly that there was more to this game than met the eye. But I hadn't come through a course. I didn't know anything about Amazon, didn't know anything about this world that we all now occupy. It was literally, I put them on Amazon and thought, oh, now I need to learn more because I don't know how to play this game.
But effectively, back then on Amazon, was it the same for you? Because I don't know about that category at all. Hands up. It almost like products floated to the top of Amazon. Was that the case for you? Because obviously it's a whole different world now. But
I still didn't even know about keyword importance. I didn't know about, you know, any of that. And those were days where everyone was keyword stuffing. Right. But I didn't know. I just wrote a lovely listing that I thought sounded great, you know, for me. And I didn't know about anything. So no, we definitely didn't float to the top, especially in clothing.
Were you, what year was this? 2014, 13?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is pre or post ASM?
This is pre-ASM.
Okay. So let's carry on the story from here. Let's just keep the timeline going right up to 2020.
My brother knew what I was doing, and he works in the financial services, and he came to me one day and said, do you know a client in today, Michelle? Really interesting. But she came in with a massive pot of money to invest, and she made it on Amazon. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, she sold her business. She had an Amazon business selling, you know, just random stuff. And, you know, he told me what she sold it for, which was, you know, a 7-figure sum. And I said, oh my God. I said, can you please ask her how she did this? How did she learn about Amazon? I don't know why. I didn't even YouTube it. If you YouTube Amazon FBA now, you'd be inundated with courses and get rich quick and everything. I didn't even do that. And so he went away, asked her, and he literally sent me a text. He said, ASM. I went, okay, looked it up. She didn't do an affiliate link. She didn't do me a sale. She just said all it was she went through a course called ASM. And I remember Dan and I looking at it, and I think it had a price tag of around about $5,000. And at this time, of course, being in this industry now, as you know, come and join this, you know, mastermind, $15,000 and do this. But at the time, it's like $5,000. Are you joking? You know, to learn something, this is crazy. But anyway, I remember we were in bed. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and the doors were open, or however it worked then, and we just pressed buy. And I remember thinking, oh my God, we've just spent $5,000 on. And
then the next day, he was offering a discount code of 50% off. No, I'm joking. Yeah. So how did that go? So you went on the course, that opened your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was very much the intention that we would both do it, because Dan's nature is very much a trader. He loves buying and selling. He's always flogging an old car, and he's very London in that, you know, he's very much a trader, and I'm not. I hate selling. I'm the worst salesperson out there. So we sort of thought it would appeal to him as well. But obviously, holding down a full-time job, he couldn't get into it as much as I did, and I just loved it. I got stuck into the course. I did everything they said, and I soon realised that at the time, you know, they were saying very, very much, do not go into fashion, do not go into clothing, the terms and sizes and the variations. So I knew very quickly that, okay, if I'm going to do this, and I love the sound of this, I've got to move away from the dresses. So I liquidated the stock, and I started again and followed everything that I was taught on ASM.
Yeah. And then, so where do we go from here? Obviously, we won't go into products and stuff, but you finished the course, you liquidated the stock. What was the next step? And then you got out of fashion.
So, you know, I did what everyone does. You're trying to find products to sell, following the ASM criteria.
Jungle Scout, you doing that? Yeah,
under £1, and, you know, this price point, all of that, following the BSR, using all of these different methods. So I did what everyone did. We launched a few travel accessories. We launched a few fashion accessories. What else was there? Bath products, random stuff from China, as I call it, and had moderate success. It was certainly providing enough for me to bring an income into the house. So that was the most important thing. It was keeping me off that corporate.
Keeping you off the streets, Michelle. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And so I just learned my craft. That's what I spent 18 months learning my trade, learning Amazon as a sales platform, going through the pain that we all go through with Seller Central, going through product selection, understanding the sourcing, understanding the shipping, understanding everything. And back in those days, you know, it was all about the algorithm. It was all about hacks. You know, there's a PR spin tool, and there was, oh my gosh, there was all sorts of things going on just in order to rank your product, all the keyword stuffing, you know, going out there and signing up to AMZ Tracker and getting 1,000 fake reviews in. That was the platform we were on. But I learned it all. But I absolutely hated it. It was not my vision of having a brand and an audience. And
so you were selling odds and sods basically to a point. When did it crystallize where you built the brand, you took it wide, didn't you? You went into that market.
Yeah, so I have to do a call out to Kirsty Verity, who come up through ASM knows Kirsty, because I attended it was a 3-day mastermind in London, and was doing really well. You know, we had several products live on Amazon. We were earning decent income, and Kirsty, for the first time ever, was pushing, or not pushing, but she explained how, you know, you could be a legitimate brand and use Amazon as your sales platform. I'd never heard that before. And it took my breath away. And I remember sitting there looking, because we were doing live stuff on our Seller Central at this workshop. And I remember thinking, what a load of crap I've got here. You know, I just do not want to keep doing this. And suddenly there was an opportunity that I could build a brand. I could use Amazon as my sales platform. I did not have to play this game of selling random stuff from China to anyone using any hack and any spin tool out there. I could realize my vision using the tools that I'd acquired. So, you know, it was, you know, it wasn't a course on how to do that. It was just that I think Kirsty was the first one who had a voice, who had explained that this is what she was doing. And it really resonated with me.
Yeah. So where did we go then? Did we just phase out these products, or did we just dump them and get straight into the new ones?
I remember and I'm still very friendly with a lot of people. We were in our first ever mastermind group. There was probably about 6 of us, mainly UK people. And we all started ASM 5, and we just came together, and we were in this, mastermind group for about 2 or 3 years. And I remember saying, I'm going to go quiet for a bit because I'm literally culling everything. I'm stopping everything. And I'm going to take a different path. And I remember them thinking, you know, what is she doing? You know, this sounds crazy. Why would you do that? And we had one SKU, and it was generating quite a good cash flow. And I remember thinking, I don't want it. And everyone's like, what, you can't just kill this SKU. You know, you're going to give it away. Some hijacker's going to nick the SKU. I don't want it. It's blurring my vision. It's just noise that I don't need. So I came away for 6 months roughly, and I literally built my brand, my vision, and I set the foundations up, and we were probably live again in about 4 months with the first SKU, and it just scaled up from there. But once I had that change of mindset that I was not an Amazon seller. I was not a hacker. I was not playing the algorithm game. And obviously we need to know the algorithm and you need to know what Amazon's all about. But I was using Amazon as a sales platform for my brand. That's when the noise quietened down. I started to feel some respect for what I was building, and everything just slotted into place for me. And I gathered momentum personally and, you know, professionally as well.
That makes sense. So what was the steps from there? You obviously, did you launch one product and then just go crazy SKU after SKU, or was it a steady flow?
Yeah, it was pretty much a steady flow. I knew the first 5-7 products I wanted to launch. I knew my audience. I knew what products they wanted. I knew that if I could sell them one of these products, then I'll just launch the next one, and I'll launch the next one, and I'll launch the next one, speaking to the same audience every time. And it just became so much easier, so much easier.
And so one factory, you got, you know, would you find that you got lucky? You got one factory, you could just have a pipeline, because sometimes it's tough, isn't it? Yeah.
No, we in the end, we probably had about 8 factories, 9.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Logistical nightmare then, really, if you're dealing with that many factories.
But we have a really good, I mean, she's now what I would call one of my really good friends. In those days, you'd call her my sourcing agent, but she's much more than that now. And without her on the ground in China, I wouldn't have been able to achieve it was very much a team effort from everyone in the team. But she was worth her weight in gold. So she was able to juggle all the factories. I think we had like about 2 factories that did 3 SKUs each, you know, another factory that maybe did 2 SKUs, and then some that did 1. Yeah, it was quite logistical, but it worked. And because I had the team in place, it was manageable.
So, but did you consolidate these onto to simplify the shipping, or were you just running lots of shipping, like instead of having like 2 or 3, 4 turns of inventory a year, were you consolidating that way, or were you constantly got something on the sea or air?
No. So again, when you're in this game as a solopreneur, you're wearing so many different hats and your head is spinning all the time. And I always tried to simplify things as much as I could. And again, going back to my corporate days where I could learn quite a few lessons, I decided I wasn't going to do order on demand, constantly that yo-yoing of being out of stock, being too much stock. So we went to a quarterly basis. So I would do financial forecast, sales forecast based on what we sold last quarter, what I thought we were going to sell this quarter, and we would place our orders quarterly and quieten down a lot of the logistics because we could consolidate the shipments, and the invoicing could be done much cleaner. So we moved towards a quarterly system, and it was all done on detailed forecasts and actuals, same as it would be in corporate. What were our actuals? What were our forecasts? Are we meeting our forecasts? Are we down on our forecasts? The only negative thing with that model is that when the storage fees changed and obviously the storage got more and more expensive, you had to be really confident in your numbers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk teams. So you built out a team. How big was the team before you sold the business?
I think we had about seven.
Okay. That's yeah.
But again, I went against the grain. I stopped using, $5 an hour VAs in the Philippines or wherever. I never subscribed to that theory. I wanted to have, I didn't mind paying, obviously once you can, I didn't use $5 an hour VAs when I had to. When you're scaling, you need to scale with your team as well. So I employed locally or in the
mums, wasn't it? Yeah. Former corporate mums who are very knowledgeable, knows what they want to do, struggling maybe to get back in, but having the opportunity to. Yeah.
Because let's face it, at the time when I was desperate not to go back to corporate life, I would have jumped at the chance to have a job where I could work from home, use my skill set, flexible hours, grow with a startup company. Oh my God, I would have jumped at that. And I knew that there were thousands of other mums in that position. All the mums, as soon as their children start to get into year 1, year 2, and that pressure of going back to work hits, and some of them are desperate to go back to work. That's great. That's brilliant. But so many of them are desperate not to have to go back to that life. So to have that offer of a contract that I could offer, I knew that I was going to get highly skilled mums that were really motivated. I was able to offer them slightly less than they would get in their corporate life because they didn't have travel, they didn't have parking, they didn't have childcare. And once you got one, they stick with you. And my God, they thrive because they just can't believe that they've got an opportunity like that. So that was definitely my strategy. I reached out to my network. Most of my best hires have come from Facebook, friends of friends. And it worked really well. So our team were predominantly mums. I think Dan was the only guy on the team in the end. All mums. We really offered flexible working to a degree, and they just came through for us in leaps and bounds.
So give me the team structure. What was play by play? What did you have? What was your infrastructure for the business? Because you grew it to a large turnover, but we won't go into the numbers. But yeah,
my corporate background, I knew what a team looked like. So we obviously had the accounts and we had the operations, which was in China, the sourcing team in China. Then I had what I would call a new product development manager. So that was everything from coming up with ideas of new products to checking out the keyword research, making sure there was demand on there, going out, liaising with the Chinese team, getting samples in, branding it up. So that role there was very much in charge of new product development, everything from coming up for the ideas, influenced by other people in the team or wherever it was coming from, and driving those through, everything from the point of brief and the research, all the data, through to the product arriving in FBA. Then we had our marketing manager, who was everything from the photography, the video, the copywriting, using the keywords. Everyone had to have a basic understanding of the Amazon algorithm. Everybody in the team had to know the importance of keyword research, had to know what traffic was, had to know what conversions was, had to know about A+ content. Everybody had to have an idea of the sales platform. Couldn't just be so micro in their own world. So that marketing manager would handle ManyChat. We were very active on ManyChat. We started ManyChat, before it became a buzzword. So the marketing manager was responsible for everything you would see on Amazon and liaising with our audience on social media as well. Yes. And then we had our Amazon sales manager, who was responsible for everything on Amazon. So looking at the traffic, looking at the sessions, looking at the stock, looking at the customer service, looking at everything that happened on the platform side of things.
Yeah, all your business metrics and stuff, your reporting, etc. Yeah,
very much closely. So if we had a problem with conversions, if we noticed a skew was coming down in conversions, they'd liaise with the marketing manager and say, okay, or the new product development manager, we've got a problem with this product, it's getting low reviews, go back to China and fix the product. Or if we were getting low conversions because our listing looked rubbish, they'd go to the marketing manager and say, shoot some new photos. We're competing with somebody who's done a lovely photo shoot over here. Or, so they would all talk to each other. And then we had Dan, who, and I have to say, probably the thing I'm most proud of with this whole journey is that I was able to get my husband out of teaching after 21 years, when I swear to God, he probably had another 24 months in him before he was going to die of a heart attack and stress. And that is not an over-exaggeration. The poor guy, he loved teaching. He went into teaching. He was truly born to teach. He was a brilliant teacher, but that industry sucked the life out of him.
Politics all suck you dry. Yeah, absolutely.
Downstairs at about 2 a.m. I found him with his head in his hands at his laptop. He had a pint of Stella in one corner and a black coffee in the other, and he was broken. And I said to him, and my cousin actually, who's a little bit older than me, he said, Michelle, you have to make a change here or this guy is not going to survive, because he was in the mid-50s and he was seeing men of his age, starting to have all sorts of problems mentally and physically. So I said to him that morning, I said, right, go in and hand in your notice. And he was like, no, we can't. Because when you're in that corporate life, you're so fearful of stepping off. You're so fearful of coming off that, you're just drummed into you that you need that paycheck at the end of every month. So I was very forceful. And I swear to God, he is now the fittest, healthiest guy I know. He runs marathons and he loves life. He's found he's found his calling.
But don't forget, like you said, he's in the early days when he probably hated his job and supporting you when you got the business off, and it was your turn. In your head is like, okay, because at the end of the day, at home, it really does matter having tranquility at home, and if you've got the opportunity to do that, it's immeasurable.
Yeah, totally. So even though I've had a really big exit and it's been wonderful, I would have to say the thing I'm most proud of is being able to give him that out. And so coming back to what his role was, I sort of thought, well, you have to learn from the ground running. And if you're going to learn from the ground running in the Amazon game, mate, you're on the phone to Seller Central, you know.
Yeah. Oh, you give him all the nice jobs then, yeah?
He was really good at it because he's a real dealer and it's in his nature. He was really good. He'd get all the problems fixed and he was just relentless. He was, you know, so he was part of the team in that respect. He was sort of like my henchman, my problem solver. And he was really good at that. So he was on the team as well. So we had marketing, we had the sales, we had the new product development, we had the Seller Central. We also had what I would call our European marketplace managers. So we had a lady who spoke Spanish, a lady who spoke German, and a lady who spoke Italian. And between them, they would handle all of the European marketplaces as well. And then we had our China team and we had our accountants as well. So that pretty much everybody worked together, and we had I used ClickUp in the end. We used Trello and we used Asana. We used ClickUp towards the end, and it was fantastic because it brought the whole team together.
I remember you integrating it a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago. Yeah.
It was hard. I wanted to throw the computer out the window when I was learning it, but it was a game changer because everybody was on the same platform. And like I say, if there was a problem with sessions or traffic, then we knew we had a ranking problem. So we'd hit the ManyChat list. If we had a problem with conversion, we'd either go back to new product development or we'd go to the marketing manager and fix that. So we're very focused on our key metrics and taking the actions that we needed to take as a team.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk mum.
My mum.
Yeah, you've on top of all that, you've had to take care of mum as well, haven't you?
Yeah, my mum developed Alzheimer's about six years ago, and she lives with me. I'm very fortunate in that her disease has been very slow moving. Physically, she's fine, apart from she's had a few falls and broken a few bones. But mentally, yes, she struggles a lot, which, you know, my kids are brilliant with. We have a laugh sometimes about it, but without a doubt, it's present in our lives for sure. But, you know, I keep thinking, well, hopefully I'm demonstrating to my children how you look after your parents when they're older, and hopefully they're not going to stick me in some home and I'm modelling that they're going to look after me when something happens to me. So, yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the team and stuff. When was the time you thought was right? Okay, I'm ready to sell, because you have to make a fundamental decision to go through that pain again. Yeah. Where were we in the process when that was happening?
So every single year we grew, the cash flow pressure just got more and more intense. Every time we approached a Q4 or a key season, the cash flow burden was getting more and more intense. And I remember I was having a conversation with Raman, actually Kian's brother, in China. We were sat down having a coffee, and, you know, he's very experienced in business, more in the traditional business. And we were talking about this, and he said, yes, but you know, Michelle, that problem is never going to go away. That problem is only going to double every year. And I thought, oh my God, I think I'd only just placed my orders for the coming season. And I just thought, oh my God. And you've got to start thinking about it. You get through Q4 and you're thinking about it in February. And so it was at that point that I realized that the business had scaled to an extent that it exceeded my capital that I had, and I needed to take some action. So that's when I started to think, okay, I am professionally fulfilled. I am personally fulfilled. I'm financially fulfilled. I don't think I have anything left to prove to myself or anyone in this game. And I just realized that it was an opportune time to exit. And this was when exits were starting to get traction and FBA businesses were starting to sell. And we were hearing all of these numbers floating around. And it wasn't just a hack game anymore. It was a credible business and exit scenario.
Yeah. And so obviously you exited because we had a good chat in the hallway in China, or was it China Magic last year? Yeah. You'd just gone through. I'm saying, what's next? You're like, give me a break. I need to rest. So we're talking October last year. From October working back, how long was the process of getting everything ready? You know, did you have to switch account into accrual, etc., or you were in place?
Scott Dietz, so Northbound Group. So he's a consultant that can come in and help you, you know, package up your business ready to sell. And I've known Scott for a few years anyway. Great guy. In this game, when you find somebody you trust and respect, you cling on to them. So he was very good. He helped me structure it all. I was not skilled in this area. You know, I've done cash flow forecasts. I've done balance sheets. I've done everything, you know, in the degree and in this world. But when it comes to exiting a business, it's a different ballgame. So we used him, and we spent probably about 3 or 4 months packaging everything up. Luckily, my accounts were in good stead anyway. I had all the data because I'm quite an organised person. And then we were approached for the sale. So it probably happened about 6 months, 8 months before I was planning on it happening. And it went through really quickly. Actually, it was quite a quick purchase. I think it went through in about 8 weeks. So
8 weeks, that's really good. But obviously you so would you say a part of this is because you've already previously sold a business, even though you didn't know the Amazon industry, even though you brought in Scott, who's brilliant at what he does, you kind of had a handle on a lot of stuff, because a lot of people can take a year. They've got to go back and do everything from.
We were approached, and the buyer was really motivated and very experienced and knew what he wanted. And so the momentum was there. And I think it was just, and it was just full steam ahead really from both parties. But what I would say is, it's a bit like buying a house or going through divorce. It's hugely emotional. It's hugely stressful. And to have someone like Scott holding my hand for the first time was invaluable. Brokers will do it as well. It depends if you get a good broker, how supportive. But for me, I'm really pleased that I had that. And next time I exit, do I need to have someone like that? Maybe not, but maybe I'll choose to make my life easier. I don't know.
Well, obviously, you've had a life-changing experience with having the exit. Walk me through the emotion so people can picture it now. When that money was released from the escrow account and at your account, talk me through that emotion.
Nothing like you'd imagine, because it was oh my God, it was so not. I was in a hotel room in London. We just closed on the deal. I'm with the buyer, met for the first time. We'd flown over to London, and 2 hours after the money hadn't even arrived, but we closed and it was going to be wired. We hopped on a flight and flew to China together. So I wasn't with Dan. I wasn't with my family. Landed in China, checked the bank balance, money's in. I'm not with anyone. I didn't celebrate. I had no one. I'm in a hotel room on my own in China, and no one to celebrate with. It was all very surreal. And we just hit the ground running. We were up again the next morning with jet lag, going off to see some factories and flying internally in China. And I have to say, thank God I had the China Magic crew. I wasn't with China Magic this year, but thank God I came down to breakfast and I saw about 10 or 12 friendly faces sitting there. And I just wanted to cry because I hadn't told anyone. I had nobody to tell this had happened to. Dan was still asleep. And I remember a couple of them, Samantha and Athena, they just cried for me. They were so happy for me, genuinely happy for me. And that's how it happened. I was in China without any family, but luckily I had some friends there from the China Magic crew, but really hit the ground running. And then by the time I got home, it was about 3 weeks later. It was all a bit of an anticlimax. I don't think Dan and I have ever raised a glass for it, been out for a celebratory meal. It just happened. It was, we still haven't done it.
Do you think you missed a moment there then? Because obviously you've been on this journey together 21 plus years.
Definitely missed a moment, but Dan and I have a habit of doing that because we create our own stress. So as soon as something comes to an end and you think it's going to be celebrated, by that time we've already created another roller coaster that we're on. So that's just kind of how we roll. But we definitely missed a moment. And
so post-rest, me and you were chatting in October. You're like, leave me alone, Dan. I'm not jumping on nothing now. I need to have a feel around what's going on. So what was next? You went through we'd spoke since then. I won't say what we spoke about. You can say if you want to say what we spoke about, but I know you were thinking about different ideas and maybe what do you do, like wealth management and stuff. So what have you been doing since then?
So some people, they've got 2 or 3 Seller Central accounts, so they exit a business and they carry on. I did not have a second Seller Central account. I'm very focused on what I'm doing. I can only focus on one thing at a time. So when we sold, it was very much, well, what now? And at the time I was like, I never want to hear the word Amazon again. I never want to speak to Seller Central again. And we started looking into, okay, what do we need to do next? You start looking into other forms of income, property, and you look at portfolio and you look at everything. And no matter which way you go, you've got a steep learning curve ahead of you. And you've got to find the energy for that, unless you literally are going to go and sit on a beach. But that was never an option for me. So we kind of just learned a lot more, listened to more podcasts, tried to learn as much as we can, trying to feel our way. And I came to the conclusion that whilst I don't relish the thought of speaking to Seller Central again, I do love what we've created. I love the network. I love the opportunities. I think Amazon is going from strength to strength, as are other marketplaces. I loved being a brand owner. And, you know, let's face it, the returns are really good when you compare it to other forms of income. And I know this, and I know the game. I've got a fantastic network around me. And let's say I decided to go into property development. Well, I don't know anyone. I don't have a network. I would imagine it's more stressful than this. I don't think there is an easy option out there. So, and I'm too young to just retire and do nothing because I'm still growing. My kids are watching every move I make. I didn't want to just stop. So yes, I came to the conclusion that as well as doing some other, you know, investments here and there and learning a bit about other areas, I am going to launch another brand.
And on that point there, I think this is where we close. To me, you're an inspiration, not for just women, but I think for everyone. You're a unicorn in industry. You're down to earth. You've achieved so much. And I think you're an inspiration to a lot of people. Thank you for being the host of our upcoming event as well, because I think you're going to really inspire a lot of women out there. So I asked this question the other day. I'm going to ask you again. How would you like to be remembered?
Oh, God, yes, you did. That was an awful question. Do you know what? I don't have any great aspirations. I don't wish to be known by many people. If I was remembered for being a great mum who set my children up for a great future with options, if I was a good wife, if I was a good friend, I am more than happy with that.
I think you're that and all above. Guys, if you want to grab a ticket for Branded by Women, I've just posted in there. Michele will be leading along the line alongside Athena and also Isabella. That comes up in 3 weeks' time. She's going to talk through her story through exiting the business as well. Michele, thank you so much today. I know we've been friends a long time, but it's lovely to hear your story and see the cycle being complete for you. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you, and thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who knows me and supported me, whether it's a hug when I needed it or whether it's, you know, help with an issue I was facing. Just don't undervalue your network because, yeah, you need them. If you're going to go through, you know, what we're all going through, you need your network around you. And thank you too, Danny, for this Branded by Women. It's ironic that it's taken a man to get this started. But yeah, I'm just so grateful that you've recognised this and given us all the opportunity to have a voice. So thank you.
You're welcome. My job is to build a platform. It's your job to inspire. So you can lead the line on that. And with that, we're going to sign off today. Thank you so much. I'll be back here 4 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be doing Mindset Sunday. We're going to be talking about law of attraction and paying it forward. So please join us then. Thank you for everyone who's enjoying. There's a lot of comments in here. Thank you guys for your regular signing in. I was going to say that we're going to announce the 50th show next week, but I fucked up the numbers and it's actually going to be 60. We're blasted past the 50 mark. So next Friday will be show number 60 in a row. So I'll get Michele back on then. Maybe she can celebrate with us. All right. But again, thank you guys. See you all later. Take care, Michele. Much love. Stay home. Stay safe.